Hello, everybody. We've had a few questions about the dissertation class and the expectations for the class. And I wanted to cover some of those today. You will notice that I'm in a hotel room. I'm on vacation right now. And the expectation through this class will be the same as I'm setting for myself. When things need to be done, when deadlines are to be met, they are to be met. There will not be exceptions to skipping deadlines or not meeting deadlines. So I wanted to emphasize the importance of that through this video, and I thought one of the best ways to do this to explain, yes, I'm on vacation, and yes, I am still doing the work that needs to be done for this course. As we go through the course, you will notice that there are multiple deadlines in the syllabus. They can't be skipped. They can't be skipped. We need to get the research questions in by June 2nd. We can't accept them later than that. We need to have the discussion on the 3-paper model done by June 9th, as you'll see in the syllabus. And then you'll notice that we get into research problem development on June 16th. You'll be basically revisiting your research question, and you may be talking to your chair of your dissertation committee at that time. In most cases, you will have come into this class with a very solid research question that will work for you. In some cases, as you go through the class, you'll determine that you may need to revisit that. At this point in time, I don't want to give a lengthy discussion of that, but I want you to understand that this week I'm not looking for the perfect research question. There is no perfect research question. There is no perfect dissertation. I'm looking for a research question that's been approved by your committee, by the chair, that you are interested in, and that will make a good dissertation. It is not for me to vet the question. The vetting that has been done by your chair is what I will trust. But do understand that you may be revisiting that. That will require your chair's input to revisit the question as we go through this course. So that's just kind of a brief overview for the first part of the course. The deadlines seem to be spread out, but they're going to come along quite rapidly. You're going to be writing your literature review first, then you'll be writing your method section, then you will be writing your introduction. They are in this order for a reason. The lit review and the methods section must be complete in order for you to write the appropriate introduction to these two sections. People that attempt to do this in a different order fail at this consistently. So those two things must be done before you can do a literature review. A literature review and a methodology section is going to be required in your proposal for the 3-paper model. Your introduction would be modified just slightly for that, but you will find that the format we have in this course will work for your proposal for either 3-paper model or for the standard dissertation. We give you an entire week to look at the 3-paper model so that you are very aware of the requirements of that and you understand that as legitimate and in some cases a very appropriate alternative to the standard dissertation. It is not secondary to it, it is a different option. It is a different option for that. You'll also notice as you go further down your syllabus that during boot camp week, you will be presenting your proposal as a PowerPoint to a group of your peers and to a group of faculty on campus at USD. So it's imperative to not get behind because you would not be able to do the presentation, and we would be taking you into the course next year. We would be taking you into the course next year to present next year. So it's imperative to stay on the timeline. It's also imperative to get out of the mode of the work that you turn in must be perfect. That simply will not work in this course. You are writing a first draft of the proposal. And this draft will go through many revisions. This is not your final proposal. This is a first draft of it. We want one that is a working proposal so you understand how to write it, you understand how to present it, and that what you have when you leave here is something that needs to be polished and expanded, but it is not finalized. Going into our textbook and talking about chapters that are due There are a lot of chapters due this week. The discussions should be focused around those things which you struggle with, rather than attempting to impress me or your classmates concerning your knowledge of the material. You should be talking about things that you are having difficulty with. You need to understand the purpose of the dissertation. You need to understand how it is different from other work. The best dissertation is a completed dissertation. That's the best dissertation. The best dissertation is not something that is ground shaking. A lot of people attempt to shake the earth with their dissertation. That is not your goal. Your goal is to complete and add to the existing literature, to fill a gap in the literature, which you have heard many times from folks on your committee. Your research needs to be conducted in an ethical manner. That is why it is imperative that you do the city training. City training is required part of this course. You don't have to have it done for a few weeks. That's something that's not required right away. It makes a nice fit in the next week's work, but it doesn't have to be done until we get into the research portion of the course. You'll see a budget worksheet on page 13 of your book. And here's my plug for the book. Once again, this is your textbook. You need to have the 4th edition. 4th edition is what we're working from, because it covers a little bit more material than the 3rd. You'll live if you have the 3rd edition. You won't live as well. Trust me on this. This is the only book you need as research for how do I do the dissertation. Having gone through this process, I have a 2-foot wide place on my shelf at home filled with books about how to do the dissertation, how to write it properly. The time spent finding those books and reading those books substituted for time I should have been working on the dissertation. Everything you need to know about how to do this is in this book, Writing the Winning Dissertation or Proposal. So the budget worksheet, do not skimp on what is it going to cost me to do this. We have people that have to delay because they don't have the funds to move forward. That's perfectly fine, but be certain you have that planned out. Be certain you have that planned out. You may need consulting services. I purchased the services of an editor as I was working. You have the Writing Center that you can also use. We have that tab underneath the literature review. You do want to work with the Writing Center. If I say there's something wrong with your writing, I expect you to go to the Writing Center and talk to them. Hardware, software, and other equipment. So I'll lay it right out. I'm cheap. I don't like to spend money. One of the first things that my dissertation chair told me was, John, go out and buy a brand new computer. Make sure you have a backup external hard drive. Make sure you have a backup flash drive. At that time, which was several years ago, cloud wasn't available. My dissertation consistently was backed up to a flash drive, on the computer, on a second computer, and on the backup hard drive. The one thing you do not want to lose are any versions of your dissertation. I have at least 20 versions sitting on various computers. You'll be told to rewrite things in a manner that you don't agree with at times. You will be able to use your older versions potentially for publications. Do not delete versions that you got heavy feedback on. Keep them. Hang on to them. You can reuse those for publications at a later date. Also, the feedback from your committee, it's important that you work with the committee rather than fight with your committee. It's important to work with them, listen to that feedback, and do what you can to satisfy the committee members. That's absolutely vital. But going back to the hardware, you want the newest version of Microsoft Office that you can get. It's available through the university for very little charge. If you go to the university technology page, you'll find that you can get it for very little. You want the newest working version of Windows Office software, the Windows operational software, or if you're doing Apple, the newest version of the Apple software. You don't want an old computer. You don't want old software. You don't want things that may go out of date. You don't want things where you may lose your work. You do not want to do that. You have the option of also putting things into the cloud. Do not rely 100% on one backup method for your dissertation materials. Back it up and copy it and reset it every 15 minutes to half an hour, so you're losing very little work. Do not lose those copies. You may have some travel involved. You may have some library time involved. You also need to budget your time. This book doesn't dig into a Gantt chart, G-A-N-T-T, very well as far as time management goes. I have a version of the Gantt chart sitting within the site. You do want to look at a Gantt chart as far as time management. Your committee, I'm not going to dig into that too deeply. Your committee should already be in place. These need to be people that you can work with. These need to be people that you can trust. These need to be people who are ethical. These need to be people that are experts within the content that you want them to be experts within. They should understand what you are writing about, talking about, and what you are researching. Do all of them have to understand 100% of it? Absolutely not. But between all the committee members, they should understand completely your research methods. They should understand why the gap in the literature exists. They should understand your topic area without question between the entire group. They do not have to agree with you all the time or with each other all the time. Okay, as I'm flipping through the book in chapter 3, the degree granting institutions requirements, make sure again that you understand that there are various formats that we can utilize. This is where we'll talk about the 3-paper format next week. Institutional Review Board. I used to serve on the Institutional Review Board. The city certificate is a requirement of the Institutional Review Board. The IRB does not make suggestions as to how you improve your work. The IRB does not make suggestions concerning how you should conduct your research. The IRB lays out rules and guidelines that you must follow in order to proceed. I had people approach the IRB when I was on the board who thought it was a negotiation. It's not a negotiation with the IRB. The IRB tells you you cannot do certain components of your research or you must alter them to meet their requirements. You must do that. They're there to protect your research subjects. They're there to protect the people you are working with. They are there to protect the institution as well, but primarily they are there to protect your human subjects. You don't negotiate with them. You do not negotiate with them. It doesn't work that way. I want to make certain that no one is under the impression it's a negotiation. Chapter 12, more about your committee. You want folks who are going to respond quickly to your requests for information. You want people who are available on your committee. You want people who can work with each other on your committee. You want people who have an understanding of your research. So we'll set that aside. The committee should be in place by now. Hopefully you have those standards in place and you have appropriate expectations. They're not going to get back to you immediately. Folks that are expected to do a great deal of work on your and with your dissertation proposal, they need a couple of weeks. You're not the only student they have. You're not the only thing on their plate. They need a couple of weeks lead time for major work, such as reviewing a proposal, such as reviewing your dissertation. They should have 2 full weeks of lead time. If you're attempting to set up a meeting with them a day in advance, and I've had that happen, I don't have time to appropriately give feedback on that. My response to the email was, it cannot happen tomorrow. While I am free, I do not have the time to properly review. And your committee can give you a good deal of feedback on how to improve what you have. Do not just set that aside and say, I just want to push this through. It's great to have it done, but it's also important that this work that you're signing off on that will follow you the rest of your life is the best work that you can do. And that's what I have for today. Do look at chapter 16, organization of the dissertation. It's way at the end of the book. I want in advance for you to understand and to know how the dissertation should be organized. I will talk to you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.